Hey folks, thank you for joining me for another lesson. I hope the perspective lessons 1 through 6 have been very helpful to you. Moving onward with the lessons, I want to start getting into things that you're going to probably find a little more useful and a little more practical to what it is you're trying to do with illustration. So thank you to everybody who's watched those videos thus far, and please share them with your friends, and strap your boots in, because today we're going to draw the human head, starting with the understanding of the skull, okay, and its proportions and some of the terms and names for the bones in the face there. If you haven't subscribed already, right below my chin here there should be a little signature in red. Just click on that and subscribe and become part of the wolf pack here. Alright, and if you haven't checked me out on the other social medias, it's Christian Wolf Art across the board on Reddit, Instagram, and Twitch as well. Okay, so now that you're here, let's start the lesson. We're drawing the human head. We're going to begin today's lesson with a skull diagram. Okay, so what I want to break down to you today are some key areas in the skull to focus on, how to break them up into shapes so that you understand how they work, and how you can use them underneath your character's facial expressions and stuff. They're volumetric points in every face, and it's because of the skull that lies underneath it that gives it that dimension. Okay, so we're looking at the human skull. You're looking at a front view, a profile, and a back view of the skull, and I just want to make today's video highlight a couple important areas. So first we're going to look at the temporal line. Okay, that's this right here, and that's right here as well. Okay, this is a portion of the skull. It lines and comes off of the cranium, which is the egg-shaped portion of the skull right here, which is, honestly, it's not even like an egg shape. It's shaped to protect your brain, so it's a brain-shaped shape, your cranium. All right, and that temporal line, this is what this is called. Temporal line makes up this little ridge here that starts to make your brow, okay? And off of it are a couple other important bones to note. You've got your cheekbone, or as anatomy would call it, the zygomatic bone. Alright. And you also have your zygomatic process, which is this thing right here, okay? And it's actually tucked in behind on my front view. And that is a very important bone in the facial structure, okay? The zygomatic process. Okay? And the zygomatic process is this bone that creates your cheekbone and this high line, or this volume on your face. Women who have high cheekbones, it's a lot further out, okay? And it's a lot more defined in their eye socket, all right? Or in their brow, and where their eye socket connects to everything. All right? That's the zygomatic process, okay? Very important bone to note in the face. We're going to go over a few other ones, because I'm not your anatomy instructor by any means. But it's important to know it's important to know these structural points in the human skull. All right? Next, you've got the ramus. It's this right in here, okay? It's another volumetric area in the skull that juts out quite a bit and is pretty prominent even when skin and muscle are laid over top of it. It's part of your jawbone there. Okay, and this area right here, that's like the chin strap, okay, comes out to your chin, is called the mandible. So this area right here, the mandible, all right? This spot right here that juts out, that's your ramus, okay? Ramus. Ramus. Okay? See how that's all working there? Let me make sure all this is on the screen. There we go. Now we can see everything. You've got a lot of other terms for a lot of other areas in the face here. You know, we're going to be dealing with this area right here kind of briefly. That's your maxilla. All right, maxilla, that's that area right here. And then you've also got, what else is important to really go over? And I guess you would say, in addition to all of this, you've got just some key areas like your nasal area, right? You've got the temporals, so that's all of this area here. Okay, this is the other thing I wanted to make mention of. It's right in here. Right in here. Alright, and that is called the supraorbital foramen. Okay? The supraorbital foramen. I'm going to be drawing instances over the examples I have for all of those. Okay, so in review, we'll knock this back here. We've got our temporal line, which is right here. Excuse me. We'll make a new layer. We got our temporal line, that's right here. Okay. We've got our ramus, which is that part of the jaw, which is jutting out. Right. We've got our zygomatic bone, which is that part of the cheekbone in the front there. It's right there, and it's right there. And more importantly, the zygomatic process, which is connected to. It's all one piece. All right, that aligns the side there of your cheekbone. Okay. And the maxilla, all right, is the area right here where all your teeth rest in, the maxilla. That's right here. Right here. Okay. And we've got the portion of the forehead that kind of juts out to form the brow, which is called the supraorbital foramen. All right, and in front of it are your temporal lines. Okay, off to the side. All right, and then we obviously have our temporal area where the temples of our skull are, in behind the temporal lines. Okay, in behind the zygomatic process. Okay, off to the side here where our temples are. All right, so that kind of breaks down the main points of the skull, and you'll see why I've emphasized all of these. I know I'm trying to make this as quick and easy as possible. We've already drilled away 10 minutes. So, if we take this skull really quickly here, and we drop it down in opacity, and I bring my drawing of the human face over top of it, you can see where these points of the skull really fade back and generate the overlaps and contours in the face that actually create what we understand as, you know, the nuances and details in a human face that look real, right? So if we look at this, first drawing here, you know, I've emphasized those temporal lines. Okay, they're right here. Let's make a new layer. Those temporal lines right here. Okay, and your supraorbital foramen, all right, is right here. All right, and it's right here on the other side. Temporal line comes down into your brow like so. Okay, and it's completely off of your cranium, just like it's a mask. I'm going to do it on the profile now. There's your temporal line coming down into your supraorbital foramen, wrapping around your temporal, okay? Wrapping around your cranium, which is housing your brain, okay? It comes down like that, mixes into the zygomatic process, and your zygomatic bone right here in the cheek, all right? Zygomatic bone, zygomatic process wrapping in behind. Zygomatic bone, zygomatic process wrapping in behind, okay? Nasal bones up in here between the eyes. You got your eye sockets, okay? Everything's proportionate, right? And I've got this right here, the ramus. It's jutting out of the face. It's an anchor point for me to draw lines over top of and overlap. But it's also a structural point of the skull, so I'm playing off that very heavily, all right? And then the mandible, all right? I'm actually articulating what the mandible's doing by this angle that I've drawn it at here. And you can further articulate what the chin is doing, the angle of it, the shape of it, where the light is hitting, all in time. But I'm telling you, it's more important to know the names of these things I've mentioned before, okay? The mandible, the ramus here, because this is actually what you're going to see in a lot of designs. I mean, these are focal points in the face that, like, I don't think people avoid. They just give such strong structure and form to the face, okay? So let me stop digressing here. The next thing we went over was the maxilla, okay, right in here. The only reason I bring attention to the maxilla is because it's, you know, it's overlapped by the muscle that makes up the nostrils and the nose, and also the maxilla is covered by this whole lip area, covering the teeth and everything that's going on in behind there. So another crucial spot in the skull that kind of sets some form, if we were to draw contour lines, to our human face that falls over top of it, okay? Those lines are kind of going this way over top of that would-be set of teeth and the maxilla that's holding them into place, okay? So that's going on underneath there. So that's your maxilla, your mandible right there. And that's pretty much all I'm drawing attention to. Temporals, all that other stuff. And you can see, if I take this away now, you get the face. The lines that I've chosen, they all overlap and interlink to one another to form, you know, what we commonly know as the human head. And drawn in, I would say, more or less a comic book style. Broken lines to just indicate, you know, levels and playing fields and volume playing fields in the face. All right? So, with today's lesson, I don't know if we should go more in depth with it. That's a lot to grasp right there. Just kind of understanding the skull. I guess the only other thing I would draw attention to, if we wanted to talk about the proportions of the head here, because now that we've got a head in front of us and we've got there by structuring it around a human skull, now we can maybe pay some respect to the proportions of everything in the face, all right? If we were to just quickly go back to the skull for 1 minute, okay? You'll notice with the skull, there are playing fields that are pretty similar across the board where skulls are concerned, meaning where the eye socket begins, you will usually find an alignment with the eye teeth, so the big, sharp canines in your mouth. I don't think they're quite canines, but those sharp teeth in your mouth, they pretty much align perfectly with your eye duct, okay, or the beginning of your eye socket, or your nostril if your skin and muscle was on the skull there. Oop, oops, oops, a daisy. I drew over the wrong drawing. So we know the eye socket lines up with the eye tooth. The other point I like to make here is the back of the cranium here, where it connects to the spine, is pretty level with the nasal bone, okay? Or with the bottom of the nasal bone. So keep that in mind when you're drawing the shape of the skull. It should be this shape, and then you should have your, here, do it like this. When you're drawing the skull, you have your cranium shape. This is really the breakdown of it that's easiest, okay? Your cranium shape, there's your brain, okay? You've got your brow and your nostril bone, okay? You got your zygomatic process, the zygomatic bone, okay? The supraorbital foramen, shit, I can't remember the name. Anyways, you got the temporal, all that stuff, okay? That's coming off. This is underneath. It's coming out. It's going under. And all of the jaw and all of basically what is your snout and your face is coming off of that brain-shaped oval that makes up your cranium, okay? So when we get back to the other drawings I have here, we can pay attention to some other proportions in the face that will be consistent across the board with your characters, okay? Your eyes obviously are always on the same line, all right? Your eyes and your mouth form a V, and everything in between there. Now, I can't say that there's a way to determine how long a nose, cheekbone structure should be. Basically, you want to feel it out till it looks right. But you want to note that you're drawing everything on the proper angle that it's facing you, okay? So in this case, because it's straight on, to proportion everything, I'm mostly concerned with my tear ducts or my eye ducts lining up with the edges or lining up perfectly with my nostrils. I'm looking for the center of my eyes to line up with the edge of my mouth. I'm looking for the bottom of my nose to line up with the earlobes. And I'm looking for my brow to line up somewhere where the tips of my ears are, okay? My jawline, or what did we call it there before? The rhombus. That's always going to be below where my mouth is. So if my mouth is here, my rhombus is going to be below it, and my chin is going to be below them all, okay? Dead center, right in front, okay? And then you've got, oh boy, a lot of terms today. Christian needs to spiff up his anatomy a little bit. You've got your Supraorbital Foramen. That's right up here, front and center, with your temporal lines running over top of it, okay? And then you can just play in everything else afterwards how it may look, because these things can alter. But the eyes in relationship to where they are with the mouth, with the ears, with the nose, it pretty much never ever changes. Now, I've heard one lesson or one rule of thumb. You could say that the space of one eyeball should be the equivalent of the space between your eyeballs. So there you have it. There's the length of a full eyeball. There's the length of a full eyeball in between my eyeballs. Beside it, another eyeball. So that proportion trick totally works. You've got one slot for an eye, one slot for an eye right there, and one slot for an eye. And that's going to make up everything. And then you can fit in all the other details that go between. When you're drawing a face on a profile, what your focus is bringing that skull form out of the face, okay? You're playing with the brow here and the angles there, the angles of the nose, the angles of the mouth, okay? They're all following those bone structures we just went over, all right? So now that you have those names in your vocabulary, you can study up on them. You can go and look at actual bones and see the similarities between different ones, male, female, right? All these lines that we've been studying are all prevalent in these sketches, okay? I only drew the behind shot to just kind of give you an idea of what it would look like to make it simple and understandable. You'd be generally looking at the back of the head here, you know? That would be the closest to you. The back of the ears and the ears themselves, or from behind, you would see coming out from just behind the cranium. They almost overlap at the same very point, okay? They almost touch each other, where the cranium comes down into the back of the into the back here, where it connects to the spine. It almost meets up with the back of the ear there in behind. And then in behind your ear, you actually have these muscles. They're called Sternocleidomastoids, and we don't have to worry about that right now. They go towards the front of your body. This is where your neck would connect, and all your neck muscles going down to your spine. And then this right here jutting out at the side, okay? Again, our ramus. That's why I pointed that little spot in the jaw out today, because you actually see that ramus in almost every tilt of the head. It's a awesome focal point, just like the temporal line is, just like the zygomatic process and zygomatic bone are. Okay? All right. There's a lot of information in, I don't know, less than 20 minutes. I'm going to let you choke that one down, okay? That's drawing the human head, drawing the human skull. It's a lot to take in. Go over this video a few times and then go and make your own examples and start playing with the stuff, all right? I'm going to make a part 2 to this video, and we'll kind of go a little more in depth over the angles and like breaking down the shapes of these structural points I've mentioned on the skull today. And then from there, we'll go and show you how you can simplify them and apply them to anything. You know, you don't even have to draw them in an instance. It's just a matter of suggesting that it's there. Okay? You cannot break the rules until you understand the rules 110%. So this is your starting lesson with the head. Go play with it. Tell me if it's teaching you anything, all right? I want to know what you guys are thinking, so please comment below, like, make sure you subscribe, hit that red wolf right down there, and become a fan, become a member, become a student, all right? I'm teaching you guys hopefully the stuff that you're going to be able to run with and do all your own great arts, great projects one day with, okay? All right, I'm rambling. Thank you for stopping by. You know what to do. Subscribe, like, comment. Check me out at the other social media outlets there, Instagram, Reddit, and Twitch. All at Christian Wolf Art. You have a great day. I'll be back with part 2 of this lesson very soon. Thank you.